Hello again. My name is David Ammons. I'm with Retirement Living Associates, and we're proud to be doing another one of our podcasts in association with Retirement Resource Guide. It's a very exciting day. We're at Arbor Acres, a beautiful continuing care retirement community in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we're going to spend a few minutes with Andrew Applegate, who is with Arbor Acres here. Andrew, what exactly is your title?
President and CEO.
President and CEO. Well, good. So we just want to delve a little bit into what you know about the industry and what Arbor Acres is doing and what you're doing. I know you've been involved in this industry a long time.
Yeah, I was calculating it, and I think if you go back to my days as a CNA, it's probably 40 years. It's hard to believe.
Wow. I hit 40 years also in June, so that's crazy.
And we don't look it.
No, not a day. It is amazing, though. Have you ever heard that before? I didn't come out of CNA, but a lot of people have. It's interesting how many people started either really young food service or CNA and then stayed in the industry. So where all have you been? Not great detail, but kind of
Sure.
the path.
I've always worked in faith-based, not-for-profit. So I worked for, I think it was 14 years for the Evangelical Lutheran Good Samaritan Society in the Midwest and in Florida, and then worked for Asbury Communities in the Washington, D.C. market for about 13 years, and so I've been here for just shy of 10.
Oh, wow. And what part of Florida?
Central Florida, so semi-Florida.
Semi, oh yeah. Well, we work some in Florida also, so I just am learning a lot more about Florida. And you've been here 10 years? You just have an anniversary?
I think it's, actually I think October is 9.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Nice. And what have you found here that you like or has been inspiring, or directions you're trying to go, or?
Sure.
Can you tell me about that a little bit? I know some of the things I read about Arbor Acres was life's next great performance. So
Yes.
I'm curious.
Well, yeah, that phrase came up actually during my interview as I was thinking about Arbor Acres and doing my research and our focus on the arts. I was trying to sum up in my own mind what I felt Arbor Acres did well from my brief encounter with Arbor Acres.
Yeah.
And the phrase that at Arbor Acres we set the stage for life's next great performance just resonated with me, and it seemed to resonate with other people.
Yeah, that's a great phrase. A lot of us have looked for phrases that make sure we envision what's next. You know, I was talking to someone recently who said they really want to see more retirement communities have residents write down what's your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, your 20-year plan, because it accentuates that there's still a long time. There's still plenty to be done. So,
well, for us, it's about I think any business, retirement communities included, can get enamored with their product and the bells and whistles they offer, and kind of the metaphor is, this is the resident stage. We're just the stage hands. We create the stage and run the lighting, but it is all about the people who live here that really create the community. And that's what I've really loved about Arbor Acres. It has been an amazingly welcoming community, and for the number of people we have that come from outside the area feeling immediately engaged and
tell me a little bit about that. Not statistics, but how many residents are there? How many are independent living versus healthcare, and how many came from the area, and that just generally?
I'll give you some general numbers.
Yeah.
We have about 300 apartments and homes.
Wow.
We have an 83-bed skilled facility, 66 assisted living suites, a 30-unit assisted living memory care, and then we also have private duty home care and a CCRC without residence.
Oh, good. Remember the CCRC without residence. We're going to come back to that in a few minutes, because that's been a great topic in several of the podcasts that I've been working on. How many people generally are Winston or Triad, or is that dominant?
I think it's probably dominant. It's very interesting. There's a group of people who are Winston-Salem natives, which is a huge portion of our population. But we have a significant group of individuals who are here because their children work at Wake Forest University, the School of Medicine, one of the hospitals, things like that.
Yeah.
And then we have this other group of people who were just researching and have had absolutely no connection to Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
We have a whole group we call the Blowing Rock Posse.
Oh, wow.
That one person came, and I think they brought half the city with them.
Is that
over
right?
The year, so.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting tidbit about that, and we'll sort of segue into retirement industry trends. But I've been in North Carolina my whole life, and there's been talk of a retirement community in Blowing Rock or Boone in that area. And one thing that we kind of come back to often is, well, a lot of people do like to retire there and they like to live there. But I think that when their needs change or they get a little older, I think they look at going back to whether it's Charlotte or Greensboro or Winston or Raleigh, or not as much Raleigh, I think, as some of you guys see. So that's a very interesting comment. Is that people that were from this area and retired there and came back, or is that?
It can be a whole combination. I think the big driver tends to be access to healthcare, and you just can't beat the access to healthcare that you have here.
Yeah.
Between Wake and Novant, and so I think that's a big driver. And honestly, I think a lot of people, their children are dispersed, and so it's like, well, am I going to go to Charlotte? Am I going to go to Raleigh? And they say, well, we're going to make everybody miserable, and we're just going to go to Winston-Salem and make everybody else drive.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of that too. I think the size of the city is perfect, and it's a wonderful city to live in and retire in.
I shared with you my bias earlier. I went to Wake Forest. I'm from Raleigh, but went to Wake Forest. So yeah, I just love the size. But we have a lot of issues in Raleigh with people who aren't in Raleigh or Charlotte, afraid of the traffic. And afraid's the wrong word, but don't want to deal with all the traffic. So yeah, I think Winston probably tackles that really well.
In Winston, I refer to it, particularly coming out of the Washington, D.C. market, we don't have rush hour, we have rush minute.
There you go, yeah. So you can find the rush time if you try.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't dominate you, that's a good point. I don't want to delve into names, because we try to leave that a little bit out, but I think you also have a really strong reputation with sort of some significant who's who Wake Forest, right? I hear from time to time that this chancellor or this athletic director or whatever it might be have come to Arbor Acres. Do you have a presence of that, I guess?
Yeah, we have, we're fortunate that Wake Forest is as close to our backyard as you can possibly get, which is great. And so we have a lot of residents who obviously graduated from Wake, are still heavily engaged in that, and so just had access to just amazing speakers. We have somebody coming in now who's the head of their IT department, and just getting ready for a great presentation on AI.
Yeah.
And very interactive. We've had the Dean of Divinity School, the athletic director, and that's one area that we are really focused on, is how do you continue to cultivate that relationship. But also, it's not just Wake. I mean, we've got the School of the Arts, which is just a wonderful resource, and Winston-Salem State University, Salem College, and so those are relationships that we want to continue to cultivate for just adding quality of life.
Yeah, we're actually going to be doing another podcast on lifelong learning. So I was curious. I know that sometimes the state schools may have done a better job of how to engage 55 plus or 65 plus into lifelong learning, but you're implying that Wake Forest and Arbor Acres are also partnering some of that?
Well, it hasn't been formalized, but that's an area that's been a real strategic objective for us, bringing some consulting in on, you may have heard of university-based retirement communities. What does that mean? How can we really take advantage of these relationships and partnerships, and not just a one-sided, Arbor Acres taking, but what can Arbor Acres give? And every university is different, but that's an area that we really want to delve into.
I think there's a lot of potential there. I'm not here to give you my opinion on that, but one thing I want to emphasize that I've seen that some people don't think of first is a lot of students are from a long ways away. And so having, it's gotten a little cheesy maybe to talk about adopt a grandparent or something, but having a relationship with adults in Winston, I think is an important thing for students, especially given the international and the country, nationwide where they come from. So let's talk a little bit about what trends do you see in the retirement industry? You've been doing this like me a long time. What do you see as trends, and maybe positive ones or concerning ones, whichever
Sure.
hits you?
I think positive trends that I see, the demand for what we offer is frankly off the charts.
Yeah.
And so, that's a great positive trend. But I think internally, in terms of what we have to offer, yeah, I think I've just seen a significant change from, my 40 years from being focused on caring for people to more of serving alongside. And, it's like, I think in the old days, you created something really out of a missional, compassionate, well, we're so concerned for, and so we build it and say, come join us. And yeah, there's an element of that, but kind of going back to the stage element, it's like, we're trying to create a container. The residents fill it. They help form that. We're just trying to put just enough structures around it to hold it together, but really allowing the residents to flex it, co-create it together. And I think that is something you're seeing more and more of. The old adage, don't fall in love with your product, fall in love with your customer, and allowing the customer to help drive.
Well, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because I work also in the industry with people that are thinking about building places or exploring building places, and it's hard to get them to understand we can define what it is as we design it and open it, but then it will become what it becomes, and the residents drive that. To your point, every community has a different feel, different flavor, and that's resident driven, I would say.
Well, exactly, and I think you have to go to a point when you're planning any new project is, yes, you need to do your research and your demographics, but you got to talk to the people. It's
Right.
like what you see in the magazines or read in a news article may not be what this market
That's
wants.
right. That's right. And you mentioned the people coming down from Blowing Rock. There's usually some sort of key people who want to have a voice and do have a voice and can drive other folks with that. So that's
Well,
right.
I think to your point, I think that's another trend, and it's a negative. Some people see it as negative. I think it's positive. I think there's a perception that kind of the new resident wants to come in and have a voice and run things, and I think there's an element of they want to have a voice. But what I'm finding is that they don't want a day job. They
Right.
didn't retire to run a retirement community.
That's right.
But so I think it's really incumbent on administration to really develop a trusting relationship.
Yeah, I
they
think
need to
you're
know
exactly
that
right.
that you've got their back, that you're listening, that you're transparent, that you're communicating. And then when you have situations that come up, nobody likes change. So you want to go and have to do some tear down and rebuild. Of course, that creates some anxiety, but if you can communicate what's in it for them, and you've been transparent along the way, they tend to go with you along the way.
Well, and I think what I'm sure you agree, based on what you just said, sometimes it's hard to get everybody involved enough to get input. Sometimes the quiet people is the ones you really want the input from. And so we work hard in our communities to pull that out. It sounds like you find the right balance between, well, I want your input and help us shape the future, but I'm not trying to make it a new job, as you said,
well,
or a
exactly.
career. So.
You try to run it as a complete democracy, things would fall apart.
Yeah.
As I said, it's like interior design by committee, everything turns out beige.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
right.
what people don't want.
Gray. The new color's gray. How about any issues? Is hiring going okay in Winston-Salem? Or, the industry talks all the time about the demographics and less people to take care of the older generation and all of that. Do you find that in Winston, or are things going well? Or?
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't think you can really be anywhere in I would say the first world, so to speak, and not have a labor challenge. I think it's really about how do you address that challenge. In Winston-Salem, we've got the added dynamics of two major hospital systems.
Oh, yeah.
To add to pressures. But what we've really focused on is recognizing is how do we not only attract, but how do you retain? And I'm a firm believer that nobody ever leaves Arbor Acres. they leave their supervisor.
Oh yeah.
And so
Heard that adage.
Yeah. So our real focus has been, and I'm really proud of our board, has made a significant commitment to what we call kind of a workforce endowment, and we've had residents contribute to that, which has really enabled us to hire a full-time manager of a program we call Palette, kind of going with the art theme.
Yes.
But it's about this partnership with our artists on leadership and education and training. And just how do we help that exceptionally good nurse who happens to be a supervisor, who can handle kind of the blood, guts, and gore without breaking a sweat, but then all of a sudden I have to have this conversation around being tardy, and it's like deer in the headlights. And I don't think the industry's done a great job of empowering those people, training them, giving them practice so that they can feel confident in those areas. So that's our areas really right now, is the focus on how do we help our frontline managers and supervisors be what we kind of master artists, the type of people that people want to work for.
Well, and I think, not to go down this tangent too far, but it's always been intriguing to me in my career. I've heard people say, like in the education world, they'll say, she's a great, great teacher, he or she, so let's make them administration. You're like, well, wait a minute, they were a really great teacher. They may or may not want to do or be great administration. It's exactly along with your point. Well, I can be a great caregiver. I don't really want to manage everyone else. So
and what we do is we throw them into the deep end of the pool and then wonder why they don't succeed.
That's exactly right.
It's to be no different than throwing me onto the in front of a nursing cart and ask me to pass meds.
Yes.
It'd be terrifying.
Yeah. Dangerous.
Dangerous too.
So tell me a little bit. You mentioned your different people use different phrases, CCRC at home or CCRC without lodging, or what did you use? Yours was a different phrase.
We just CCRC without lodging.
Without lodging, yes. Tell me a little bit about that. How many people are in that program, or is it a new term for your waiting list, or is it really a separate program, or how do you structure that?
It is a separate program. It has no overlay into our wait list or ready list. It is falls under the CCRC without walls regulations in North Carolina, which gives us a couple options of how we want to approach that. So what it does is small entry fee, small monthly service fee, and then you have access to the community. And
including healthcare, including beds?
Yes, you're treated as if you were a resident of Arbor Acres, but you don't live here. And I think one of our big draws is that we have a really fantastic healthcare center. And so when people are anticipating, hey, I'm not ready to move in, but if I need skilled nursing for short-term rehab, I'm going to come to the Strickland place at Arbor Acres. And so I think that's a big tie. And the nice thing is that while probably 50% of them will never move into Arbor Acres, probably 50% will.
Oh, that's
and
a
then
high number. Will,
Yeah, and then their entry fee that they paid for that program applies to their entry fee here. And so we're licensed by the state to have about 100 individuals. And I think we're at about 60 right now.
Yeah. But it's interesting, when you say they're like a resident but doesn't live here yet, they're literally, as I sometimes hear people call it, I'm an Arbor Acres resident, but my address is Main Street or wherever it might be.
Exactly.
Does that mean access to dining and those aerobic? I mean, wellness and everything?
Yeah, our fee does not. You can have access to anything. You can use the dining room, but there's not like there's not a meal plan with it, so it's just pay as you go if you want to use it.
But that goes okay?
Goes great.
Because we say very positive in my podcast, but I know some communities have struggled a little bit with, our CCRC at home people are here tonight, and the residents are going, they took my table. Like,
yeah, I mean, that was some concerns when we first started, but we have, we did a lot of research and looking at our data, and have not been an issue at all.
Good. That's great news. Most people have had no issue. I've even in our podcast, so I've probably talked about at-home programs with 5 or 6 people, and there's only, I think, 8 or 10 in the state or something at this point.
Yeah, I think it's 11 or 12
Yeah,
right now.
so we've talked to a significant portion, and the concerns have not been realized at least not much. Certainly not to the level they thought they would. So,
Well, we added 56 new apartments back in 2023 and added 90 people, and we didn't expand our dining
Oh,
footprint
wow.
at all,
Just
and it has not been an issue.
well, my next question was going to be about, I heard you had some new expansion and some stuff, but you just said it was 56
Yeah.
apartments. Those are independent living? And,
Independent. Arbor Acres is 45 years old, and the original
Wow.
3 buildings basically were 315 square foot studios with no
Oh.
kitchens.
Yeah, that
And
was
we've
84
combined
years.
a lot of those.
Yeah.
But they're aging out. We've never had a problem marketing them. We've always been able to keep them full, but long term. So we built Aldersgate Square and opened it in 2023 with the premise of that allow us to attrit our older buildings.
Yeah.
And so we've been in the process of there so that we can then tear down, replace.
Oh, move existing residents into the new and tear down the old, or?
Actually, we have 3 buildings. We'll tear down one of them
Oh,
and relocate. But because we've been attriting since the start of, I think, 2023,
yeah.
today I could move everybody and have plenty of capacity to do
Oh,
what
well,
I needed
good,
to do.
good. I know the relocation can be a challenge.
Oh, yes, it can be.
Yeah, I understand. I guess one other topic I want to talk about briefly is food service. We all know, I've been in this career as long as you, that food is always way up there. I always get a kick out of sharing, like with family members, just like in colleges, food is a big item. Retirement communities, food is a big item. So have you seen much change there? Or are you guys more formal or casual, or have both, or?
Well, we have 3 dining venues. So we have a formal dining venue, we have a casual dining venue, and then we have what we call the Book Nook, which is sort of a combination specialty menu with a bar.
Yeah.
And those have been really well received. You know, this is one where I could get into some trouble with my peers because I will tell you that I've been in this industry a long time, and food service is kind of the top issue.
Yes.
I can say that it hasn't been a topic of discussion at this community for probably 4 years.
Oh, good.
Have an
great.
exceptional dining director in Aaron Perkins,
Yeah.
and our executive chef Jolie Schaefer and Chris West, our front of the house manager, are just, and their group is just an
That's
amazing
great.
team. And you always know you're doing well when your executive chef comes into a resident town hall meeting to talk about the latest dining survey, and as she enters the room, she gets a standing ovation.
Oh, wow,
They
yeah.
love her.
Yeah, that is great. And I happen to believe it generally comes down to just be consistent. We can talk about the
Absolutely.
menu, we can talk about choices, but if you'll just be consistent, then
Absolutely, you have to be responsive. You know, you're with 500 people. Not everyone's going to agree, but I think that's one thing our executive chef does particularly well. She's a great culinarian, but she loves people,
Oh.
and so she's out pressing the flesh. And if there's something, it's like, I've got a hankering for, fill in the blank.
yeah,
There's a good chance it's going to show up on the menu.
she'll try it out. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. So what's next for Arbor Acres?
Wow, what's next for us? Kind of in the most immediate future is we recently purchased a lot that separated Arbor Acres from some other property we own. So we're in the process of expanding one of our neighborhoods by adding
you are?
10 homes.
Oh, nice.
We're hoping in November to go before the board for what we call kind of it's phase 2 of our core redevelopment plan, which would constitute the tearing down of one of our buildings, our administrative building, and our current gathering spot, large gathering spot, Piner Hall, and adding 30 plus apartments and new
Oh, wow.
Piner Hall, maybe doing some dining
Oh,
expansion.
yeah.
and-
So keep going, keep going. All right, so Andrew, thank you very much for all of your time.
My pleasure.
We've had a fun time doing the Retire Wise podcast. And I want to wrap up today and say, any of you that want to look for our Retire Wise podcast, we're on YouTube and Spotify and other podcast platforms. And so we hope you enjoy it. We hope we're bringing another side of the retirement industry, or an inside, if you will, of the retirement industry is what we're aiming to do. Thank you very much.